Welcome to Herman Hall's Salute to Grenada. Thank you for coming, and at this point, I would ask Pastor Marcus Christopher to lead us in prayer.
Can we all stand, please? Let's reverence God as we pray. Gracious God, our Heavenly Father, we come before you in the precious name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, your only begotten Son, our Lord, our Savior, our soon coming King. We thank you for this special day today. This is a day that you have made. We rejoice. We are glad that we have been included on your wake-up list for this, the 10th day of February in the year of our Lord 2024. Thank you for gathering us here today for this very special occasion as Herman Hall and Everybody's magazines commemorate Grenada's Independence Jubilee, 50 years. We thank you for the special issue of this magazine with so much of the rich history of Grenada. Many challenges were faced to bring this magazine into fruition. We thank you for giving Herman Hall and all those who worked together, quite a wonderful team, to make this magazine a reality. Thank you for giving them what it takes. We pray this afternoon as we have the official launch, we acknowledge your presence. Your word says, acknowledge you in all our ways and you will direct our paths. You will make our ways straight. And so we acknowledge you. We pray for everyone participating in this evening's proceedings. We pray that everything will just work out with clinical efficiency. We want you to be glorified most of all. May your will be done as we pray in the name of Jesus with thanksgiving. And as we say the Our Father together, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. God bless you. You may be seated.
I would ask everybody to stand as Harper's Music School plays our national anthem, and the students are those that are gracing the cover of the magazine with the Prime Minister. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Wonderful music, beautiful. Um, Good afternoon. My name is Ann Janice Farry. Ann Janice Farry, and I'm coming all the way from Montreal. However, I did have my start in Beauregard, Birch Grove, St. Andrews many moons ago, and this year is also an anniversary for us, my sister and Patrice. We left Grenada in February 1974 to go to Canada to join our mom. I am thankful and feeling blessed and very emotional about being here at this monumental time. So God continue to bless our nation, and God bless our nationals. As I said, I'm in the community in Montreal. I've always been connected to Grenada. I was here recently. We had a family reunion. I'm part of the Gittins, Humphrey Farry, and families reunion. So we had a wonderful time this past year. So I'm always looking forward to come home and to be part of the celebrations. Next up is, I'll pass the mic.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Nancy McGuire. I'm a member of the Métis Nation of Canada, and I've been in Grenada since 1988. I have been involved in some sort of writing ever since I arrived, first with the late, great Sir Eric Matthew Gary, and then later as the press secretary to Prime Minister Keith Mitchell. Following the hurricane, I was writing for the Agency for Reconstruction and Development. And most recently, I had been writing for the Grenadian Voice newspaper. And now I'm very, very happy to have been part of putting together this magazine and doing some writing for it. So I'm very happy to be here and honored to be here. Thank you.
My name is Liz Dasani, and I am from Ladig. Most of my years I spent in Grenville. Most people know me there with Mrs. Benjamin. She's arriving shortly, and I now live in the United States in Washington, D.C. metro area. I am a community person. I'm involved with the state's attorney. I am the chair of the Multicultural Commission for Aisha Braveboy in Maryland. And also any initiative that's Grenada, you can call on me and I'm there to serve. I have, some of my friends are here, Barbara Braffett. Barbara worked with me a long time ago in the States, and then when she came here, she also worked with the Kidney Foundation. Kudos to Barbara. I also recognize Mike Malcolm, a part of Everybody's Magazine, and Valita Samuel. There's another person from Maryland, Washington here. Myrtle Samuel. Anyone else I'm missing? No. Okay, so thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy whatever is in store for you this evening. I will now pass it on to Ms. Farry.
Yes, so as I've said, I have been involved in community for many years, and somehow volunteering and fundraising is part of my DNA. I was at McGill, I worked at McGill as an administrator for over 43 years. So I only retired recently, and of course I thought I would step back a bit, but that ain't happening. Anyways, I was part of the magazine coordinating the diasporic area from Quebec. So here today, we have Caldwell Taylor, past ambassador to the UN under the Maurice Bishop. So Caldwell, stand and take a bow. Take a bow and thank you for your service. Okay. We have his spouses here. My sister Patrice is also here. Patrice, take a bow, take a bow. My spouse, McDonald Joseph Clark, he's also retired from McGill and is now an artiste. He does a lot of landscape artwork. Joseph, please stand, take a bow. Also in the crowd and featured in the magazine is Joanna Humphrey. Joanna is the sister of Dr. Daigo Humphrey. He's a cardiologist who lives in Oklahoma, but he's also here in Grenada, sometimes at the university, working there and also running clinics. So he has been very fundamental in giving back to the community. When we had a reunion, he was there and he had a clinic. He was running free clinic, free advice for hours on end. His dear mother, Utris, and Joanna, please take a bow. Joanna is also a nurse, so she's also featured in the magazine, and her brother's featured. And thank you, Utris. Utris is also a longtime friend of my mom, Margaret Farry. Okay, thank you. Also on the Montreal side, featured in the magazine is Gemma Rabin-Baines. I'm sure many have heard her name. She is a powerhouse to be reckoned with. She is here in Grenada with a group of visitors. Unfortunately, she was not able to attend. But Gemma, she's almost, what you say, is like the gift that does not stop giving. She coordinates pageants, tea parties, a lot of different activities. And when she turns 70, her keynote now is she has a program, a scholarship program called the GemStar Excellence Program, where she has, I think about right now we have about 18 or 19 students who are benefiting, they're benefiting from coaching and support, financial support, to be able to continue their studies. So it is a great program. I know that Jennifer Holstein, or our Miss World, is also here, and she knows Jennifer, she knows Gemma very well. So maybe you would like to stand and take a bow for her. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Also in the magazine, featured in the magazine on the Montreal side, is Mr. Leonard Warwood Jr. I don't know who don't know Jr., okay? He was giving and caring and was always a true patriot to Grenada. Unfortunately, he passed away, and the community misses him badly. He was our honorary consul in Quebec under the NDC government and also the NNP government. Junior, my pal, rest in peace. Also featured is Mr. and Mrs. Bonaparte, Mr. Dennis Bonaparte, who is deceased, and Miss Bertha Pitt Bonaparte, who is a musician, and I think about 2-3 years ago, she was awarded by UE, she was awarded an honorary doctorate. So unfortunately, she's not here, but she is also a community stalwart together with her husband. I think officially in 1974, they started the Grenada Nationals Association of Montreal. And the association has been up and running for years and doing very good work, providing services to the community, and especially providing a network and a feeling of Grenadianness in Montreal. So they're now preparing for the gala to celebrate our 50th, and it's going to be on the 17th. Unfortunately, I will not be there, but thankfully, I was able to work with the team to raise over $7,000 for bursaries, some of which we expect to give to TAMCC College here. Also, I'm also featured in the magazine. I don't know that I have to say much more, but I do dabble, so I call myself a poet. I write, I edit, and it's, maybe my next step is to see what am I doing, because people, when I go about and do poetry, people will say, well, so when the book coming out? Okay, so because now I'm retired, I think that is what one of my main projects will be. So I think I've already spoken about Caldwell, and I believe that's it. Thank you. Do enjoy the read. The book is excellent. It's a great historical encyclopedia. Okay, so later on I could say a few more words about it. All right? Thank you. Who's next, Nancy?
Good afternoon again. And I see our Miss Benjamin is arriving. Well, since I arrived in Grenada, I've collected a long list of contacts, and as a writer, I keep track of them and build them up over the years. And so I turned to that long list when Herman asked me to find a sprinkling of Grenadians and ask them how they see Grenada in 50 years. And so I turned to librarian friends like Esther at the Guave Public Library. I turned to old friends that I knew when I was in government, and I turned to people that I have interviewed as a reporter for the Grenadian Voice. Okay, sorry, everybody. So today, who I see here from that experience takes me back a few years to when I was working with Sir Eric and the Grenada United Labour Party, and one of the contacts there was the late A.O. Forsyth. So his daughter is here today, and she's one of the people I interviewed for the Looking Ahead 50 Years. I also say I recognize Miss World because I met her a few times when I was with Sir Eric, and again when I was in the Prime Minister's office, and she, along with the late Victoria Hughes, was organizing a Miss Grenada pageant. I also recognize someone in the audience that I interviewed, an artist who is featured in here. His name is Ricardo Francois, and he's the owner of Para Creation. He's right over there. And he gave me great insight into just putting together this collection of interviews. The children were really the most optimistic. As you will read, they've just got great visions for Grenada. And the other project I did for this magazine was an interview with the opposition leader, the Right Honourable Dr. Keith Mitchell, who I had worked with for 9 years in the Prime Minister's office. So it was kind of nice to go back and talk to him about the future. So that's who I see here today. I was expecting some others. Maybe they're on their way. But that's basically what I'd like to say about it, other than it is a document. It is almost by Grenadian standards, when you look at a magazine here, this is a book. It's just full of information. I haven't read it all myself, I must admit. I'm going to sit down and go over it and over and over it again, because there's just so much information in there and some beautifully written articles. And some of the stuff that, or I shouldn't say stuff, some of the documentation that Herman himself has put into this magazine is most revealing and most fitting for this time as we celebrate our 50th anniversary. Thank you.
Okay, I just need to add, part of the book also features 50 movers and shakers in the diaspora. So it was very competitive, and sometimes we put forth names, but they only selected 50. So I just want to give kudos to Mr. John Cruikshank, who is from Grenada, but he lives in Montreal as well. He has been the president of the Grenada Association. He was also our honorary counsel, and whenever he's fluently bilingual, so whenever there are any meetings regarding the Black community, he is always there representing. So he is a member of the board of directors of the Côte d'Ivoire Black Community Association, and he's been doing community work for umpteen years. As well, I also have to mention that Theodore H. Blaise, I believe, our past prime minister, was also his uncle. Ted is also very community oriented and was also one of our honorary councils. Also featured, well, not quite featured, but at least listed in the 50, amongst the 50 of movers and shakers, is Teresa Clow Henwood. She went to SAS way back when. So I want to give kudos to her, because whenever we have any celebrations, especially our independence celebrations, she is the one to give it color and concept. So thank you to all our members. Thanks.
Thank you. I just want to recognize Mrs. Nadia Benjamin. Nadia Benjamin hails from Paraclete in St. Andrews, Grenada. She was one of the founding members of Independence. If you look in your magazine, there's a story here of I believe there are 5 of the women who were there with Uncle Gary when Grenada achieved independence. On page 44, you have the Honorable Audrey Palmer, the Honorable Mrs. Cynthia Gary, Her Excellency Dame Hilda Bino, Honorable Mrs. Waple Ned, and Honorable Mrs. Nadia Benjamin. I think Nadia is the only living one of the group right now, and she's 88 years old. She lives with us in the Washington metropolitan area, and ever since last year, she said, I have to be here for the 50th. So that's the reason I am here, and her daughter Carol is also here. We brought her down to be a part of the celebration of the 50th anniversary of independence, because she was one of the founding members, a member of parliament under Uncle Gary. I also want to recognize Pat Williams. She just stepped in here from the New York area, but a member of the audience. Also, she's Jumani Williams' mother of New York. Herman will talk more about that possibly later. So in the magazine, you will also find a part of my story on page 71. So please read. And there's also for those of you in the Washington metropolitan area, our gala is coming up on the 24th. And it's also in the magazine on page 16. So some of the work that I do is in here also. There are a lot of Washingtonians that are in the book. I'm not going to go through all their names, but take time to read the magazine, and you will be filled with history and the movers and shakers in the communities. At this point, I'd like to introduce Mr. Herman Hall to the podium. Herman Hall is the editor of Everybody's Magazine. He has been the editor for over 46, going on 47 years. He has a wealth of knowledge, and he sometimes feel like, oh, I'm not that good, but he knows everything. He grew up in Belvedere, and he can tell you from his heart what it meant to him to listen to the stories of the workers on the estate. So I would ask Herman to say something. Bring Herman, everybody, to the podium.
And before I address some of us who are here, I just want you to know, and you give a big round of applause to our viewers, Mikey Live viewers in the diaspora. For example, early today, Michael Maher show, the very last son of the person building we are standing in his home, T.A. Maher show, he called me early to say him trying to get on to Mikey Live. So we know that there are people in Toronto, London, New York, Brooklyn, all over the place listening. And not only Grenadians, I want you to know, the independence of any one country in the Caribbean is the independence of all. I sort of paraphrasing Dr. Williams. So Everybody's Magazine, we are in our 47th year. So obviously, as a Caribbean or global sort of Caribbean or Caribbean American magazine, we have readers, their offspring, most of them now were born abroad in the diaspora, and they are listening. So it is just not Grenadians who are, or people of Grenadian background, who are viewing the show today. So I want to welcome, for example, our editor, because I'm the publisher, I really have not been the editor. But our editor, Winthrop Holder, he's listening to us in a hospital in Manhattan, right? Now, Winthrop Holder is from Trinidad and Tobago, a long-time school teacher, and sometimes I would want to get things done in the magazine, but he wants perfection, pure perfection. And I'm sure he's viewing us from Langone Hospital somewhere in Manhattan. Then I just want to thank the writers who are also listening. We have Dr. Edward Cox. He's in Texas. He wrote 3 magnificent articles, one on Selby Donovan, and you may have heard the Prime Minister mention Selby Donovan on Wednesday in the parade. Most people don't know who is Selby Donovan. I hope that the Prime Minister did look at the magazine. I'm sure he saw the magazine. And as T.A. Marshall, to quote Dr. Cox, who is listening to us, watching us in Texas, T.A. Marshall sat, on the feet or the legs of Donovan for T.A. Marshall. In other words, T.A. Marshall carried the torch of Donovan, and one of the principal researchers worldwide on Donovan and T.A. Marshall is none other than the retired Dr. Cox. And now that we are in Black History Month, you could Google anything and you'll see the work of Dr. Cox, right? Now, I hope I've saluted. We have Mr. Felix in Brooklyn, who wrote a commentary on Grenada's 50th anniversary. And I just want to say, for everyone who is listening abroad, you can go on www.everybodysmag.com right now, and you can order the magazine. If you are in London, if you are in Sweden, We do have a few subscribers in Australia. You don't have to be Grenadian. Everyone will look at it. And this is the modern age for the young people. The printed copy, you don't even have to get it. You could just download, request it, $4 US worldwide, and within an hour we'll send you the digital code. As a matter of fact, we have been selling a lot since the magazine came out. We do have the grandson of T.A. Marisho here, Dr. Marisho. Where is he? Oh, yeah, he's right here. Right? And I spoke, he liked to say his uncle, Smiko, a very good friend of Miss Jennifer Hosten, last night, and he was too excited. He called and said, well, where is Michael live? But he called me 2:30 in New Orleans. And I have to say, no, man, this is coming on at 4:30 Grenada time. I want to make it known in our list of 50 persons, we had 2 lists of 50s. The one in the diaspora took about a year and a half to do. The making of this 88-page magazine to celebrate Grenada's 50th anniversary, I've been planning it for almost 2 years. So for the diaspora, the 50 persons that were in the diaspora, it was very difficult. We spoke to people like Miss Diane Lewis, she's here in London, sent me a list of the most top 10 Grenadians in the UK during the 50 years of independence. So better I didn't ask her to send me 10, so she sent me 50. And then when I asked this long-haired lady here from Montreal, again, same thing. Better I didn't ask her to submit 10, she submitted me 100. So overall, I think we had close to 200 in the diaspora to bring down to 50. So some people are on, some people are not on, but we had to make that decision. In terms of Grenada, we also have a top 50. There have been some glitches, computer glitches, but I want to say publicly that Ms. Gertrude Protein, most people don't know, I've spoken to people in Grenada, they have never even heard the name of Gertrude Protein. I hope when Ms. Jennifer Hosten say a few words in a few seconds, in 1 second, she will be able to tell you who was Gertrude Protein. But in addition to that, she was one of the early politicians, one of the early people who understood the founding father of Grenada, the late Sir Harry Gary. But most important, as far as I'm concerned, in my book, she is the mother of tourism in Grenada. So again, there has been a glitch in the 50th, but she is the mother of tourism. That was the biggest title in my opinion. The reason why we selected Marisho House, we could have done it at Rainbow Terrace in Grenville, we could have done it in Guave, we could have done it maybe as the government to give us maybe a room in the parliamentary building or in the big convention center, right? Is it the convention center? But I purposely chose Marisho House, and let it be cleared. Sometimes Jamaicans ask me, how come Grenada have such rich history and they never heard about it? And let me tell you, for once and for all, the independence movement in the entire English-speaking Caribbean, when long before independence, started right here by T.A. Marisho, which was his home. This is why today we are standing at the University of the West Indies satellite campus at Marisho House. So when you talk about the independence movement, Marisho, he wanted independence through a federation, not as single entities that unfortunately happened, but all the British then islands were supposed to gain independence under Marisho's philosophy as a single unit. And the federation did come about. I was a little boy when T.A. Marisho died, and people walked from Sotez to Tongue for the funeral. It was the first time Grenadians may have seen a flyover. The British saluted T.A. Marisho. I remember I was a little boy then. I had to walk 2 miles to listen to the radio because the people I grew up with, they came obviously to the funeral. So T.A. Marshall was considered the father of the West Indies Federation, but most important, he started the independence movement. And for my listeners or friends who are listening abroad, he was a very close friend of Sir Alexander Bustamante, who really did a lot in Jamaica, and he was a very, very close friend of Sir Grantley Adams, Ebenezer Joshua, Vere Bird. These were the people who sweated for independence. So with the independence we are enjoying in Grenada today is a victory for all. Again, I don't want to talk too much because I talk a lot. I noticed our public advocate, Jumani Williams, arrive. Well, you know, politicians are always on the go. So, and he came down from Carriacou. I understand his grandmother is from Carriacou. Jumani is no stranger to Grenada. As typical since the 1930s, 20s, 1910, Grenadians have brought other Caribbean people. At summertime, they send their children to be raised by their grandma and so forth from Toronto and New York and those places. So Jumani really grew up, spent most of his summer sometime in the parish of St. Andrew. And I heard him the other night saying that he know more than St. Andrew than people who were born and raised in St. Andrew. So, but he is the public advocate in New York City. And for people who don't know what a public advocate is, let me explain. In the United States, we're using it as an example, if the president passes away while in office, the vice president takes over. That's the second highest person in the country. Now we have our fourth female of Caribbean background as vice president. But in New York City, which is called, the mayor of New York City is called, it is said that he holds the second most tiring job in the United States after comes the president. So, but in New York City, there is no such thing as a vice mayor. There is what you call the public advocate, who is elected by the people. And so if something unfortunate happens to the mayor, the public advocate automatically becomes the mayor. So we are talking about the second highest ranking person in New York City who happens to be Grenadian American who was born in Brooklyn. And that is what we should be telling our people. But as I said, he came down from Carriacou. I'm sure he has other events. We know he's not seeing the Prime Minister. We know the Prime Minister is in Toronto at the dinner tonight. So without much ado, let me ask Public Advocate Jumani Williams to say a few words, very brief, because we are online, and then we know he has to go elsewhere.
Peace and blessings, everybody. Love and light, how are you? Hey, Uncle Cyprian, Auntie, everybody all right? Oh, yeah. Happy Independence. Thank you. I am very excited to be here. Thank you for the introduction, Mr. Hall. People may not know the public advocate. A lot of folks know the former public advocate, though. Her name is Letitia James. She's the Attorney General, and she's giving it to Trump now, so a lot of people know that. But I took her position. I got elected when she was elected as Attorney General. But shout out my uncle in the back and my mom over here. You could wave, my auntie, and my wife over there, Ernestine Williams, who is just, over there, my bad. It's her first time in Grenada, so this is her first time, yeah. Yeah, Grenada, welcome. So I'm excited. I wear my Grenada Carriacou Petit Martinique Spice Blood wherever I go to hopefully making folks proud. I am, as mentioned, the second highest ranking elected official, the only elected official in the city who is a Grenadian of descent, and the first in the city council. I'm actually the second in the entire state. There's nobody now, but I don't like to count him because he's so far removed. But Governor Patterson was his great-grandfather, I believe, was of Grenadian descent. But it's probably diluted by then. So me, I'm right straight from the source. So I'm gonna count me. But this is just exciting to be here in the 50th anniversary. I'm afraid of flying. So last time I was here was 14 years ago. You could talk to my wife and my mom how difficult it is, but it was the 50th year, the Golden Jubilee. So I had to come thanks to God, my family, and some Ativan from the doctor. I got on the plane, and I came here to celebrate, and it was amazing to have my kids go to paradise under the cocoa. I think they say Chocolate City now, and see where I spent my summers and talked to some friends and got some oil down. It was very exciting. My father's from St. Guave. I don't know it as much as, I didn't say I know St. Andrews as much as everybody else, so I just want to, don't get me in trouble now. But I have to mention my father. I went somewhere and I mentioned where I was, and my grandma was a kayak, and I grew up in Paradise. And I left the stage, and somebody said, I thought your father was from such as in Guave. I didn't mention that, so I had to go back to the mic and mention where my father was from such as in Guave. So I want to make sure I mention it. I said my Uncle Cyprian, yeah, I shot him. Yeah, I shot Uncle Cyprian. I shot him. And my auntie, I did that, right? I'm not getting in trouble. Anybody else? I don't want to get in trouble. But this is exciting, and I always like to talk to Herman because he has so much history about Grenada and everything that happened here. And that, Everybody's Magazine, still is and was the place that everybody from the Caribbean went and got their news from Everybody's Magazine. So for him to be doing this 50th anniversary edition is very, very special. For him to invite me to come talk and be a part of the diaspora that hopefully are making folks proud is amazing. It's a small island, but we're doing big things all over. I'm wondering if we double the population during the Jubilee that came over. So I'm glad we're in sync, but I know there's a lot of people who haven't been in quite some time, and I hopefully will be back. For those who know Paradise and Grenville, my grandmother and grandfather had a pharmacy called Beckwith's Pharmacy in La Bay. I was able to pass by there as well and check it out. It's not a pharmacy anymore, but it's just, there's a lot of stoplights in Grenada now. There wasn't that many 14 years ago. Grenville is popping. A lot of things going on. So this is only up and up from here. Looking forward to see what's going on in 25 and 50 years. And it seems that the Prime Minister is doing some very good and innovative things and is very popular. Politics is fickle, though, so we'll see what happens when I come back. But it looks like we're moving in some good directions. But this is exciting. Please pay attention to Herman Hall, and hopefully y'all can look me up, see what kind of trouble I'm causing over there on behalf of people. But it's a good thing, and I'm prideful. And I always mention Carol and Petit Martinique whenever I can. So thank y'all so much. Peace and blessings. Love and light to you all. Thank you.
Okay, before we get a little, the music band, the music school band, Kenrick. So we will be ready. Yes, get ready so we could get a little. One thing, Grenadans have had great musicians. We have had, obviously, the mighty Sparrow. I was thinking of calling him, but today, but time is of the essence. But then we have people like singing Sandra, other people who right, okay, thank you. Right, of Grenadian background. So we have a lot of good musicians, but in the early 20th century, some of the great Trinidad Calypsonians, they all came from Grenada. And the tradition continues, and we have Kenrick Music's band. He has a music school in Grenville, and children from all over the island, they go to learn to read music. So the next generation of musicians from Grenada, they are approaching, and they are going to be performing. So in the meantime, I also would like to mention, while they're getting into Reda, one of the top pediatricians in Brooklyn. Well, I'm sorry I'm not young again to have children, so the children of certainly, if they were in Brooklyn, would have been going to this pediatrician, Dr. Sharon Auguste McBain. Could you and your husband and daughter all stand to take a bow? All three of you. The camera is in you. The world wants to see you. Right, the camera is right here. They are from Victoria, And as they say, I don't like to say the apples don't fall from the tree. That's a Cole saying. I prefer to say the mangoes don't fall far from the mango tree. So Dr. Sharon, she's a leading pediatrician in Brooklyn, but so is her daughter, who is now also a doctor, and she's also in the same business. So you see a generation of Grenadians who will take Grenada into the next century, into our centennial, into our 50th. So a round of applause for Dr. Yeah. And may I say, and then since we are speaking to Dr. Sharon, I just want to thank all the advertisers. It was a very difficult task. I came to Grenada twice to prepare for this issue in April when everyone was saying you're a madman. This is April and you are talking about an independence magazine. And I came back in September for the photographs and so forth. And again, we had a reception to entice Grenada business people to advertise. And most of them did not see what I was attempting to do. But I want to thank the Grenada Tourism Authority. Pure Grenada has a nice advertisement. I want to thank one of the leading hotels. Here, my good friend, the late Royston Hopkins. We were very, very good schoolmates, and it's a proud moment for me when I see his daughters have taken over the hotel. And this is one of the best hotels in the world, one of the best. I think it's a 5-star, 6-star, well, I will say, according to Oliver Samuels, a billion-star hotel. And we are now talking about Spice Island Beach Resort. So they had a vision to advertise in this issue. So I just want to salute some of these advertisers. We have Compass Shipping. Anyone in the Brooklyn area know that Compass ships maybe 90%. But wherever there's always competition, and my good friends, Denny Shipping, a Jamaican shipping company, I've never gone to them when they have said no to me. So we do have a lot. We have Host and Funeral Service in Brooklyn, one of the principal advertisers. Without these, Maeve being Philip, she's in Atlanta listening. She has 500 magazines of that issue selling to the Grenadian and other communities, showing off our proud tradition and so forth. So I'll be back to give some more advertisers, but in the meantime, and then after the musicians come on, listener will just ask Ms. Jennifer Hostin to come and say a few words, right? And may I say, some of them are on the cover. All of them are on the cover of the magazine. So those of you who are in the diaspora, this is a great time to make sure you get a collector's copy, because 50 years from now, the centennial of Grenada's 100th birthday, these musicians you just saw, some of them will be in their 50s, some will be in their 50s and 60s. So you are right here now looking at the future of Grenada. And this is why our logo, the magazine logo, you will see the bird, which is a bird belonging to Grenada, and of Carriacou. You will see taking Grenada into 2074. That's the logic of that T-shirt and the theme of that special issue. But most important, we are waiting for Ms. Houston, but she's obviously taking some pictures. But again, we should welcome into Grenada a nice oil-down reception to Mrs. Jumani Williams, because she's not Grenadian, but her children or her son is Grenadian American. So, Ms. Jumani Williams, we just wanted to give you a nice Grenada Spice oil-down reception. They are off. Okay, you will take over.
Okay, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, but before I do, is Ann Charles here? Ann Charles? Okay, for those of you who don't know, it's a little bit of history. Ann Charles was Grenada's first independence queen and only reigning independence queen. She was supposed to be here, but I guess she did not make it. So we do have our queen of many, many years, and I will let her tell you about herself. So please, Ms. Hostin, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. It is a pleasure to be here, but I'm not here to talk about myself. Sorry. I'm here to talk about my very good friend, Herman Hall, and this wonderful magazine that he has put out to commemorate a very, very special occasion of 50th anniversary of independence. You know, Herman is, for me, one of the most outstanding Grenadians in the United States. He is, I think, an icon. Every American, I think, in New York area, in fact, Washington and all about, know Herman, not just as a Grenadian, but as a Caribbean person. And that is why I was happy for him to talk so much in this issue about the history of our country. I think a lot of people forget that Grenada's history is really quite a colorful one. And the history of Grenada is interesting from many points of view, from the French colonization to the British colonization. As you know, Grenada and France changed hands many times. And so Herman has done it in this magazine. Thank you so much, Herman, and for putting me in touch years ago with my good friend now, the Mighty Sparrow, who wrote a calypso or two about his land of birth. Herman, I celebrate this magazine. It will be a treasure for me to keep and to look back on. I plan to make sure that I have enough of them to take back and share with my children and my grandchildren. So congratulations, Grenada. I hope that you will buy this magazine and that you will treasure it as something quite special, done from the heart of a true Grenadian patriot. Thank you.
But we are not going to allow Ms. Houston to get away with that, saying she's talking about me when we were expecting for her to talk about herself. So let me tell you some secrets. I was going to wait it for an event we are having on Monday, but I will just give you some secrets which I was going to, as I said, release. Miss Houston was just not the first black woman to be Miss World. Right? There is a whole movie that Sculpture and some of you will be seeing on Tuesday. Just unfortunate, the movie came out during COVID. But forgetting about the beauty wall of pageantry, whether it's Miss Universe, Miss World, and so forth. Most important from a women's perspective, not based on beauty and impression, but based on talent, she helped revolutionize the women movement. Don't you know that Miss Houston was one of Grenada's first female ambassador? How many of you here know that she was ambassador to Sir Eric Gairy, the High Commissioner, as they say in Canada, during the Eric Gairy days? But she was a very great ambassador, and guess who asked her to remain in that position when they came into power? Maurice Bishop. So here we are looking at a lady who not only was a world phenomenon in terms of the world of beauty, but she was also Grenada's ambassador or High Commissioner to Canada under the regime of Sir Eric Gairy, as well as during the regime of the late Maurice Bishop. And if that is not enough, she worked for the Eastern Caribbean Organization in St. Lucia. We hear of CARICOM, but it's the Eastern Caribbean Organization, right? She was a technocrat for many years, created many papers. So you are looking just not about a Grenadian, but an overall Caribbean, one of the top Caribbean personalities. So I will just hand it back to what Lisa was going to do.
Hosting. On page 42 of the magazine, her story and beautiful pictures are here. So please make sure you get a copy and you can keep it as part of your history, again, for your children, grandchildren, and other relatives. I'd like to give a shout out to Gentle Ben. He's watching us now, Gentle Ben Benjamin. He's Nadia's son, and he's watching us from Maryland, Columbia, Maryland at the moment. He was supposed to be here, but he couldn't make it. So shout out Gentle here. Nadia, did you want to say anything? I think I asked you earlier, did you wish to make any contribution about what 50 years of independence means to you?
Done a political hat again.
The most important thing or something that sparks a light?
Yes, well, 50 years of independence, you know, meant a lot to me and to many people in the world. But so Eric Gairy, in whatever I say, you know, I have to put him at the top, you know. Some years ago, I don't remember the exact year, we were doing some work in Dunfermline, and that's where his mother lives, on the other side of the road where we are doing the work, helping mothers, children, nurseries, etc. And Dorothy Hopkins came all the way from St. George's, and we were working together. And Eric Gairy's mother lived on the opposite side of the road, and we worked on that side. So after we were finished with what we are doing, we went to the nurseries. If we have children there and something is wrong, I'll put them in my car and take them to Princess Alice Hospital and so on. So Dorothy Hopkins and I used to work together. So Eric Gary's mother lived on the opposite side of the road where we were walking in Dunfermline. And he was living there too. And he saw all that we were doing in the area. So after we were finished, we went from Dunfermline to La Fillette. We did a lot of work. We took children to Princess Alice Hospital and so on. And then I went back to my home in Grenville. And one day I was standing near to a neighbor of mine, 2 neighbors. And so Eric turned up and he said, Mrs. Benjamin, I come to offer you a scholarship to go to the university in Jamaica. He said, you have been doing so much work in the Dunfermline area, and that's where you live. I would like to give you a scholarship to go to the University of Jamaica.
Thank you so much.
So you will let me finish?
You want to say some more? What is what? We are here. I know you were one of the 6 parliamentarians, along with WapleNet and others, and we congratulate you for your service and all that you've done for St. Andrews. And you're a gem. At 88, you're still with us and can remember so much of what happened during the year when independence came about, and the darkness and the lights and all that, those things resonate in her brain. So thank you again for coming, Mrs. Benjamin, and we appreciate you.
Yes, so this great magazine is available by going on everybody'smag.com. You can order it, a hard copy, or if you wish to have an electronic copy, I believe it's $4 US, irregardless where you are in the world. As I've said previously, as far as I can see, I have not read a lot of it, but in going through, one can see that it's an excellent keepsake. It's an encyclopedia that captures Grenada's history as we are today, as we were in the past, and looking forward. So I think it is excellent. I saw that there is something, a piece on Dr. Keith Mitchell, where he's looking up and looking forward, and he's talking about the dreams and aspirations for future generations. And as we have on the cover does have, looking forward. It is a special issue, and I know that some people thought, well, there's an error. It didn't say 2024, because it talks about 50 years later. So I think in doing, I've been preparing some documentation to create a video for our reception in Montreal. And in looking forward, one can see from the research that Sir Eric Matthew Gary, he was a visionary. In his days, a lot of people thought, oh my God, something's wrong with this guy. But he was a visionary. So what I can say is that Mr. Hall is also a visionary, okay? And he's looking forward to 50 years, so this is why we have this. So please go on the website. He's on Facebook as well, and get your copy.
Well, we're done.
Yeah.
Just on page 46 is Dr. August, her story. Great supporter of the magazine. I just wanted to bring that out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, so we would like to invite anybody in the audience here or in our listening audience to ask questions if they have any questions about the magazine. Any questions?
But since everyone is shamed, I will continue. Because we haven't been to time and remember we are live abroad. So if anyone have questions, don't be afraid, I'm just killing time. But again, the cover of the magazine was planned. It represents not the past. The last 50 years is now history. We as Grenadians, and as the Prime Minister said, and as we try to demonstrate in the theme of this magazine, we are looking ahead to the next 50 years. Back in 1976, I was only into the United States for 10 years, but in 1976, it was the bicentennial of the United States, meaning it was the 200 years of the United States. And President Ford, at that time, they wanted every ethnic group in the United States to participate. But because of Brooklyn Carnival was just in its infancy, and I was the lone Grenadian among Trinidadians promoting Brooklyn's Carnival when we only had 50,000 people, not the 2 million we have today. And I was very fortunate to be part of the bicentennial in 1976. And all what they were talking about in 1976 was about 2076, 100 years later. So when I'm talking about, or when we at the magazine are talking about 2074, it is not unrealistic, especially the children here will be around. So the question here is this: do anyone have questions? I will continue. Mr. McBain, right here has a question. You can come up and ask the question.
Actually, I just want to forward, since you are the publisher for Abrams for the last 47 years, what do you think about the future? Have you any plans for an organization or something that would project the magazine into the future for us?
You know, that's a very good question. I will want to give tribute to the late George Johnson, the publisher and founder of Ebony and Jet. Today's generation would not know what is Ebony and Jet. But Ebony and Jet were the leading black magazines around the world. But like technology changes and everything changes, today Ebony is basically an online publication. The future of this magazine is really not on me. The future of the magazine is in the world of digital. So, for example, we send, for example, the digital edition to a lot of people to look at, and yet now there's some of them are saying of my age they still want the physical copy. But at the end of the day, in the next 20, 30 years, print will never die, just as how jazz never die, or calypso will never die, not because you have soca. The print will never die, because this is the basic for reading. But hopefully another generation will take it. I would love to take the magazine for 3 more years when we can say that we celebrated 50 years. Presently, we are about the 2nd or 3rd oldest African-American magazines in the United States. Essence and Black Enterprise. And we all were founded around the same time. Both Essence and Black Enterprise was founded by Caribbean Americans, people of Caribbean background. They also did the feasibility of doing an Essence edition and a Black Enterprise edition only for the Caribbean. But they soon found in their research that the Caribbean was segmented, divided. It will be a Barbadian magazine if you have a Barbadian on the cover, a Jamaican magazine if you have a Jamaican on the cover. So they squash it. But the late Earl Grey were given the population to do it. So that's basically the hinder for me of any publication of what I attempt to do. We are trying to encompass the entire Caribbean. So I could tell you there will be some people in the United States or UK or wherever who will say this is a Grenadian magazine. But it is not. It goes beyond that. Any questions? Otherwise, I could elaborate. Now, there are some fascinating articles. Without independence, without statehood, there would not have been independence. Just as before statehood, there was marriage show. Yeah. So, I got a pleasure in writing the statehood. I was part of statehood, a youngster in Grenada. I was 19. Let us say Blaise was the prime minister. Sorry was the chief minister. H.A. Blaise was the first chief minister of Grenada. He was also the first premier of Grenada. Statehood was the final straw before independence. So, at this point in time, so many Grenadians do not know our own history. And that is one of the reasons we gave so much background. I want to say that there is an extensive interview with Maurice Bishop, and I will say for the listeners abroad and for anyone who are listening or viewing, that Maurice, he helped me edit the second year of the second issue of Everybody's Magazine back in 1978. He used to come over at Everybody's Magazine. And if we are talking about Sir Eric Gairy, one of the interviews we did in this issue was an interview I did with him on UFO. And when you look at what is happening in the world today, you can see Sir Eric, whether we were against him politically, but we have to give him his credit. He was a man of vision. And just as how Maurice was a man of vision, because Maurice saw what I was attempting to do. And anyone who buys this magazine, whether it's online or not online, you will see we ran all the covers we had on Maurice Bishop between 1979 and 1983. So this issue encompasses a lot of history. Then we had Miss Norma Blaise. She's the daughter of H.A. Blaise. And I said, listen, I want you to do a piece. And I was surprised, do what you want. And she didn't speak anything about he as a politician, but our daddy, I think is the name of the article. And she spoke of when he come home and the people he helped in Carriacou, but it was prayers, and he never discussed politics at home with the family. And people will come to him, his home in Carriacou, for him to help them do anything, and it had nothing to do with politics. But H.A. Blaise, again, is a forgotten man. We haven't heard of his name in this 50th celebration. Then another credit is Mr. Brothaway, Nicholas Brothaway. Remember now when Grenada, after the invasion of the rescue mission, the Governor General, Sir Paul Schoon, they had to choose somebody. There was a lot of forces, you will see. If America had their say, they would have installed someone who, at that time, had no connection. They would have made the person prime minister. But we have to thank Eugenia Childs and John Compton for insisting. And then they created that plan. And that's where Mr. Brothaway became the interim political leader. And he did a fabulous job. Later, he joined the NDC and became prime minister later. So these are people we really have to credit, and most of us don't know. And then I, as an experienced person being involved, I was with Mr. Gairy. The same day he was overthrown, I was in the hotel suite on February 13th. And as Miss Jennifer Houston, 1979, as Miss Jennifer Houston will tell you, I saw her there. She was there because she had came down from Canada. And the next day, I interviewed Sir Eric. Anything around the world came from me through the BBC, CBC. I'm not taking any credit. I'm only saying to you of the experience. This is why so much was put into the magazine. Is there any questions? Nobody? What was your favorite article in the magazine? Any one of your panelists? Oh, you love the UFO. So why did you like the UFO?
Because so many people have tried to belittle him for calling for investigations into UFOs when he did it in the United Nations. And then it turned out that people were investigating. So that was the most interesting one. It put why he said it into proper perspective.
Okay, so you had her, or you want her to repeat it? Repeat it? If she wants you, he wants you to say what is
Okay.
about the UFOs.
Yes, I enjoyed that. Well, I have to first of all say I haven't read every word in the magazine yet. So what I've read so far is the UFO article, the interview with Sir Eric on his feelings about that. And the reason I say that is because people tried to belittle what he was saying then, and these sorts of investigations into outer space are ongoing and have been ongoing, and he, again, was ahead of his time, and people try to make a joke of it, but it didn't work out. Yeah, so.
But, Dr. Marshall, I know you'll be quiet. Again, we have the grandson of T. What have you, I know you have not yet seen the magazine. Yeah, I'm sure you'll be seeing it. You will be collecting it today. But what impressions you have had about TA? And I know you were big into Morris Bishop, especially, correct me if I'm wrong, especially after the invasion, right? You try to keep the name of Morris Bishop alive. Was it you, I think? Oh, continue. Or you can come up here. He said it's off.
I'm given credit for keeping the memory and the legacy of Morris Bishop alive. It is something I'm very proud of. Morris was cut down in the prime of his life, at a time when he was poised to make some of the greatest contributions that any prime minister could make. Today we celebrate independence, and I can say my generation was a generation that was anti-Gary. But in retrospect, I can now recognize the greatness of Gary. We know that he was a leader that brought benefits to the working class in 1951. And we also know that he championed the cause of the poor and working people of Grenada in the same way that Morris Bishop did. The excesses of Gary at one point in time, we cannot disregard that, were some of the factors that led to the revolution. But the revolution itself imploded and did, in terms of brutality against the people, far worse than what Gary did. And so Gary was totally rehabilitated in the eyes of the Grenadian people, and we can now pay tribute to Gary as the father of independence. And I have no problem in giving him all of the credit that is due to him today, even though I'm a firm supporter of Morris Bishop. I saw the efforts that were made to malign the name of Morris Bishop by the print and electronic media over the last 40 years. But we see today that Morris Bishop blooms larger than life because of the contributions that he made. In fact, for those who may have attended the unveiling of the commemorative $50 note for Grenada, would have seen the justification for him being placed on that note. Because, a lot of the times the people say, well, he just took power and he wasn't an elected leader. But people must also remember that although he was not an elected leader, he was a parliamentarian. He was also an elected representative of the people. So he wasn't just somebody that came from the sky. He was somebody that was part and parcel of the internal struggles in Grenada and of the Grenadian people. And the justification for him being on that note, for example, is the fact that he was instrumental in the formation of that monetary union that we call the EEC Monetary Union, which today is one of the most stable currencies anywhere in the world. It is never devalued, and it has been stable for all those times. And he has also been instrumental in the formation of the OACS. Those are things that you have to give him credit for. And that is why I continue to support his name. That's why I continue to champion his legacy, because I believe that a lot of the things that he did in his time are things that we should continue to follow. We have made a big, big mistake over the last 40 years in totally disregarding some of the wonderful examples that were laid down by the People's Revolutionary Government under Morris Bishop. And that is one error that we have to rectify. A lot of examples, fine examples of development, of freedom, of resiliency, of self-determination were born in that period. And we need to go back to those and build on that as we go forward for the next 50 years.
Yeah, I just want to touch about Gary. I was 1951. I clearly remember in my first Julian Federal book, I have it, well, in those days, these folks, they couldn't read nor write, illiterate, and he solved that. But when in 1951, I may have glanced him just before the strike, he was not able to enter any estate until after the strike when the union was recognized. But for people who couldn't read and write on Belvedere Estate was the estate owned by Julian Feddo, and they were saying this Gary was Julian Feddo who came back because they didn't know the nice word. They couldn't read and write. They couldn't use the word reincarnation. But in 1951, they saw Gary as a comeback, Julian Feddo comeback. And I could tell you as a little kid at that age, the 51 strike, I remember everything. The people who gave their life, or people after the end of the strike, they couldn't live on the estate anymore. They had to move because they went on strike. So Gary have done quite a lot, and let's take the same St. George's University, or what we call Morris Bishop International Airport. All these things were projected before. Morris, the PRG, they took it one step further and gave us the airport, which is extremely good. So when you look at it well, both leaders, without both leaders, we wouldn't be, they have done a lot. So again, for our viewers abroad, go to www.everybodiesmag.com. If you are in London, as I said, if you are in Toronto, if you are in Calgary, if you are in any part of the world and you are looking at this live broadcast, you can just Google www.everybodiesmag.com and we will send you your digital copy within an hour for you to read. I think we said it was going to be 6 o'clock, and I myself doesn't like to look at shows online when it is long and boring. So are there any questions before we end it? Okay. So I just, again, in summary, I would like to thank all the writers abroad, Dr. Cox, as I said, Winthrop Holder, who is in a hospital, Mr. Felix, Norma Blaze, quite a number of our writers who contributed, our editors who did a lot. I want to thank again some of our, or all, not some of our advertisers, but all of our advertisers, because this is a commercial publication, it is not a book. So therefore, without advertisers, there couldn't be known. For example, today, I got a call from New York, but on Wednesday when I was in the stadium as an editor, the idea is I'm always creative in that sense. Should we have a small or what you call a coffee magazine you put on your coffee table with the highlights of the celebration we celebrated in the last few days. And that's feasible. We are traveling with our photographer who is always busy from Jamaica, Mackenzie, taking pictures. So we have 1,001 pictures. Those of you who saw the broadcast live, I guess, on Wednesday, you would have seen one of the photographers there was our photographer. But the bottom line is, do we put out a 30-page or 36-page or whatever pages in photograph as a collector's item, just showing in photographic what was done in the last couple of days, the unveiling of the $50 bill and so forth. But at the end of the day, from a business, from a publisher's perspective, you need advertisers. So if there are any advertisers out there who will love to advertise or support such a special edition it should be about no more than 36 or 48 pages. Don't be afraid to call me. The email is simple, herman@everybodiesmag.com, or you can go to editor@everybodiesmag.com, or you can even call us at 718-930-0230, because I will have to make a decision within a few days. What, Mr. Mershaw, do you believe that a commemorative 36-page highlighting the 50 years, I'm talking about the events, the celebration in at the stadium, Fish Friday or whatever we had in the various parishes would be a keepsake? Do you think people will love that? Right, so I'm always creative, and I see Miss Pat Williams looking at me there. She's ready to spend $1,000 on the publication. Now, Pat has been a subscriber of the magazine, well, from the beginning. As a matter of fact, some of the big events we used to have, the big dinners bringing up people like Tom Adams, the Nobel Prize winner, Sir Arthur Lewis. She was part of all of those events, all those big balls we used to have and so forth. So I see she's ready to contribute $1,000 towards the edition. Right. So are there any questions? And then we didn't recognize from England, Dean's sister, Yolanda. Yolanda, right, she's busy talking in the back there she's from Guelph, because as you know, all the talented people in Grenada come from Guelph. No, I'm just kidding. Right. So then, did we mention you, Mike? Yes, somebody had mentioned you, Mike Malcolm, right? Yeah, Lisa did. Mike, again, is one of our big distributors of the magazine and anything we do in the Washington, Maryland, Virginia area. So I think, Pastor Christopher, okay. Yeah. I know we have another Marisha in the house, We didn't mention him. He's always spelled his name different. But he is a family. That's your family. Right. But he, right. And he has been very, very helpful. He's out of Brooklyn. And he also had made this issue possible. When I was crying to him, telling him I made 2 trips to Grenada, and I don't know what to do with this publication. He also put, he talked the talk or whatever, and he supported me. As a matter of fact, he took the magazine to the Governor General on our behalf. So I just want to welcome him and thank him. So I think we will end the broadcast because we do not want to put people in London. I know someone in London called to me, say she's going to be look at it, which is about 9:30 in London right now. So now it should be about 11 or going to 12. We don't want those folks in London to fall asleep. Our people, well, in California, it's still daylight in California. We did mention Mr. Williams. Well, I think your cousin Jomani had recognized that you were in the house. Cyprian X, formerly Williams, he's sitting in the back there. So this was a diaspora event, and again, we want to thank the music band, the future musicians of Grenada. We had a lot of young people here. I want to thank Ms. Holston for coming, and she has an event on Monday, an all-day event in St. George's. I do not know too much details about it, but you could always find out whether or not you will be able to attend the event. Again, thank you, and I just want to thank Pastor Marcus Christopher and his family for helping us present it, and those nice T-shirts you see they have, we also have it on sale here, and those of you in New York or in the United States, you can order it from us. It always goes because we did not have much advertisers. And for those of you who are here, you can always go read my book, my 2 books on Julian Feddo. I just forgot when Jumani was talking and he spoke about paradise. In my second history book, that's the thing that fascinates me the most. And this is my research going back to 200-300 years ago. The slaves of paradise. Because when Julian Feddo, when the British was trying to defeat his troops, the slaves of paradise, they said, let the British troops go and try to remove Feddo on, what's the hill again? You know the hill. Yeah, over Grenville Bay. Pilot Hill. So the slaves of paradise, they said, let them go and see if they could defeat Julian Feddo in Pilot Hill. But what the British did not know, the slaves of paradise were walking behind the Britishers. So by the time the soldiers could have arrived there, the slaves of paradise defeated them, making life easy. So the slaves of paradise, they all played a very important role in the Julian Feddo rebellion. This is why today, not among the Grenadian community per se, that we have sold thousands of books about the life of Julian Feddo. On the 2 books I've written on him, one, Belvedere Estate, Feddo's Home, and the other one about Julian Feddo, patriot, insurrectionist. So this is why universities around the world have purchased my books. And this is why the Trinidad and Tobago government have purchased over 80 of the books. And quite a number of universities, as I said, and think tank institutions and libraries have purchased. This is why we've been able to do so well, because the history is still black history. Always remember, it's still black history. And it doesn't, we usually believe because we have Black History Month, we're talking about black history in the United States. But black history in the United States is also Caribbean history. We must always remember that. Again, thank you, because if you give me a chance, I'll be talking all night. So we just want to thank the television crew, Mikey Live, who is very, very professional. I know people around the world, I mean, in the diaspora, they look at Mikey Live, and I just want to, and this is being very, very truthful. I had no idea who was Mikey Live. But election night, I was at Costco, election night 2022. I was at Costco, and I happened to pick up Mikey Live to see what was happening in Grenada. And I found him to be a very, very professional person. And I said this, and I said to myself, this man should be broadcasting the United States general election. So ladies and gentlemen, on November 7th, 2024, don't be surprised if you see Mikey live on CNN. Well, I know he's not going to go on Fox News. He may be on CNBC. They hiring him to comment on the results of the American election, the presidential election. Thank you again, worldwide. Those of you who are listening worldwide, thank you for looking at me. And you can tell your friends, they will be able to find it on YouTube, Facebook, Mikey Live, on our website in the coming days. Thank you.